Okay, real talk. Shopping doesn't always boost your confidence. Sometimes you just want to put something on and think, yes, this is me. That's why Stitch Fix works. You take a quick style quiz, size, budget, what you're into, and a real human stylist sends pieces picked just for you. Try everything on at home. Keep what you love, send back the rest. Shipping's free. No subscription required. Get $20 off at stitchfix.com/podcast.
Well, welcome back to Gopher's Workshop. I'm your host, Aaron, and joining me, as always, is my fellow host, Grias!
Did we start in a lounge?
We did.
Okay. The maitre d' was trying to instruct people to sit down. Okay.
Oh, we're not past 15 seconds yet. I can't say it.
Anyway, today, as promised, we're going to go over some of the rules. I'm not reading the book to you. You're all adults, presumably. Anyway.
Big question on my behalf, but go on.
I'm aware. But we're not talking to you. We're talking to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we're not talking to me. We're not talking to me.
Somebody's got sass today. Well, I'm not going to read the rules to everybody. I do want to hit a few things. I'm just kind of skimming through, and as we get there, there's changes that I think are going to either be initially overlooked because who looks that up? Like, that's not the important part, but it does matter. Or things that have wording changes that are close enough to what they used to be that if you are skimming a rule, you're like, oh yeah, that's the same. But it turns out the wording is changed just a little bit to where it does actually have an impact, but you have to like look for it, like the removal of the word only. If you just skim it, that's the same rule, but now only is gone. So like it actually does work differently. Anyway, it's just an example. Starting down the list, movement has changed slightly. As before, there are some restrictions. You can't move through enemy models. That's pretty much the same. It says you can't move off the edge of the battlefield, which is technically a change for aircraft, but we'll talk about that later. All while moving conditions must be met. I'll be honest, that's so open-ended that like, I know there's some things that will apply to that, but I feel like there's more things coming. We're going to come back to that when we get the rest of the information, because I feel like this is... I don't know, it just seems weird that they pointed that out. It says you can move through friendly models. Before, you couldn't move through friendly vehicles or monsters. Mm-hmm. Now it just says you can move through friendly models. So it is a slight difference. I don't know that matters a ton, but... Again,
it's another change that to me reflects for ease of new players.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Vehicles can go through units, but units cannot go through vehicles.
Yeah. So we'll obviously, as we get more information, because the rules they put out are like, again, 80% of the rules. It's not 100%.
Yep.
Maybe we'll find out that that's still, it's like reverting back to how we've already been playing, and maybe that's not true. But it, again, the first line item under movement is it can be moved through friendly models. Period. This
does bring up a question that I really find interesting. I'm going to really dive deep on. So what does that mean for tanks through tanks?
Again, if they're a friendly tank, no problem. If they're an enemy, no. Mm-hmm. But that was already true, right?
Yeah.
The thing that's kind of odd here, which to me is a little crazy because they don't put it in these bullet points, but it is true later on, is they don't talk about engagement range here at all. And I get that it's like early on in the document, so they haven't even like brought up that engagement range is a thing or defined it yet.
Yeah.
But like, it says you can't move through enemy models. That's it. Then later they're like, oh, by the way, you can't even get to the enemy model because you can't get engagement range. A, is that bullet point even needed when I can't get through engagement range? And the only time I can is when I have the fly keyword, so I can like
take the
ignore them anyway. Like, all right, whatever. There's a lot of, let's say, British wording. However, as much as that's true, I do appreciate how many bullet points exist now. Hooray.
It's almost like they listen to the podcast and we're like, you know what, bullet points might actually make sense.
You and I both know they don't listen to us.
One can dream.
So this is just a minor note as I'm skimming through my notes here. As far as we know, pivot doesn't exist anymore. They specifically call out that you can rotate models as much as you want. When rotating, like rotate around the center of the model.
Again, I think that's a big mistake. We had a problem with that last edition. That's why it was
I don't think that's true. The problem we had in the last edition is people were making the argument that as a part of the charge move, they could rotate the model and then measurement. Now, you can only, because of the order of operations, you're rolling your charge distance, then you're declaring your target, and the target has to be within the roll. Now you're allowed to move. So you can't like, I'm going to roll my charge distance, I'm going to pivot, now I'm going to declare my target. Like, that doesn't work. So they've already fixed it by altering the charge move and the order of operations of completing a charge. So the one reason they implemented pivot, they've already fixed by adjusting charge. So now the argument is like, okay, in the movement phase, I'm going to move and I've got this long like ghost arc. Well, I'm going to rotate it. And since it's so long, but so thin, I'm going to gain a couple of inches. Then I'm going to measure my movement. Like, okay, fair. That's totally true. You could gain a couple of extra inches there. But they didn't implement pivot because of that. That's been in the game since forever. They used to have like land raiders who like were sideways on the deployment line, and then turn one, they rotated a half and then moved. Like, they've always let that go. It was specifically the charges where people were deep striking 9 away, rotating. Now it's like 7. I could make a 7-inch deep strike charge, and then they just got to do that for free. That is where the problem became. So again, pivot's gone. It's not like we get to abuse it, but it is gone. In talking about some of the rules, I'm not going to go over shooting and being selected to shoot and all that stuff. I do want to state that they have rules lawyered the wording of the rules in a way that does make it harder to like argue, harder to abuse. But in doing so, I think they have worded it a little more confusing. Because, like, for example, when you're selecting unit to shoot, you're like, there's like a type of shooting, right? So they have it broken down in the rule book of like, here's shooting, but explaining the assault keyword is like, it's in here, but it's kind of confusing because like you just read shooting and you're like, oh, there's no penalty to advancing. And then you get like select to shoot and you get to, if you have the assault keyword, then those specific guns are allowed to shoot if you've advanced. Like, again, it's not worded the best, but it is more rules lawyery. So if there ends up being a weird enhancement or upgrade or something, I think there's a lot less, like, for the competitive side, a lot less arguing that like, no, but I got around the rule. This book is, again, more bullet points. Love that. A little more specific in their wording. It doesn't make it necessarily easier to learn, but it does make it to where once you learn, it's going to be broken less often.
Well, and again, like I'm here for making this an easy to learn edition. I am. But also there has to be some sort of level of expectation here of like acknowledging the competitive side of 40K and how people will attempt to exploit any and all things to get extra gains. And that's just part of the game. That's why armies have different rules. Yep. Your job is selecting your army and selecting units to go in the army and selecting abilities and enhancements. This is all to break the game. You're breaking the game's rules.
Yep. And again, the big thing I think here is your how do I explain this? Having hard to read rules is not a turn off for people. As much as it's a turn off for learning and new players, look at Magic, for example, right?
Yeah.
Their rule document is literally a legal document written basically by lawyers with like, they've got what, like they used to at least have like 4 different levels of judges. And like, there was legitimately things that like you had to know to become like a level 3 judge. That was like, how often does this come up? Oh, almost never. But there is one card where like that could happen. So now you have to know that. Like,
yeah,
having hard to read rules is not a turnoff. Having rules that are like confusing or like, no, we're trying to look into it. And even after looking into it, it could go either way. Those are the rules that I think really turn people off from the game, because then they feel like there is no correct answer. And while I don't understand it, if I know there's a correct answer, I trust the rules to be good, even if I don't understand it. Mm-hmm. If I do understand it, but it's still unclear, well, now I get to like, GW's terrible at writing rules, or like, this game sucks. Like, that's, I think, the real problem. So on that note, I'll keep moving on. Battle Shock. This is another one of those really tiny changes. Not in that, okay, so there's a big change. Battle Shock sticks around. The tiny change is that for taking Battle Shock tests now, it's no longer below half strength. It's at or below half strength. Mm-hmm. So now one of the big things here is like 4 model units. There's not a ton of them in the game, but like Custodes, for example, you could have a 4 model unit. Death Guard, you could take like 3 plus the character. You could get some 4 model units. Now, if you have 2 left, you're taking the test. It's not, because Lord of Contagion with 3 Blight Lords was a great example, right? Or Death Shrouds, whatever. Mm-hmm. You would like, oh no, the only time I would ever take a Battle Shock is when only the character's left. But now he's a separate unit, so he doesn't take a Battle Shock test. In this edition, first off, he stays a part of the unit, so it is still a 4 model unit. Also, at 2 models, you are at half, you are taking the Battle Shock.
The only one this really doesn't apply to is 3 wounds or 3 models or less.
Yeah, and that will be an interesting note, because the argument for 3 model units is you only take it when there's 1 model, because half would be 1.5 and you can't do that. Maybe they'll come out with an FAQ at some point that's like, round down or something. But for the time being, 3 model units, it's only when there's 1 left.
Yep. I do like the change now that leaders are assigned at list build. I do appreciate that change. I know it changes a lot of things in the game. From like model counts to even how like you could used to be able to kill, like Purge, for an example, Purge the Foe mission. Mm-hmm. You could get multiple kills off of 1 unit because you kill the unit, then you kill the character, and I got 2 kills. Now it's, nope, you just killed the unit, that's a kill kind of thing. Again, I can appreciate that it changes a lot of things, but also I think it's welcome changes. It, again, streamlines things and it offers less confusion.
Yep. Overall, I think that's true. It'll be interesting, because like even reading the rules, like I've got an example in front of me, like fallback move. It's no longer a fallback move. It's I'm going to fallback move. Then before I move, I have to select my fallback mode. And then they clarify like, okay, here's the ordered retreat and desperate escape. Okay, we already had both these rules, and arguably some things have changed, but like very little has changed. First off, desperate escape is now a hazardous roll. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that means it's mortal wounds, not hard dead models. Safer. Love that. Really disappointed that I'm not going to convince you to fall back with your dreadnought and kill it again on a single die roll. But it is like, I think overall better, but it's again like desperate escape is now hidden underneath fallback move. And also there's a change of like, instead of explaining mortal wounds, it's just the bold hazard roll. Okay, so that's, again, is that a crazy change? No, but is that something that I think people are going to like kind of gloss over at first because how often am I going to desperate escape in my first 3 games? Probably not, like maybe once. So that's probably another thing that gets kind of messed up for a while. Okay, so I want to also go over pile and move. Well, I guess maybe it's not pile and move. It's more selecting to fight.
Yep.
There's again, relatively minor change here that I think is going to end up having major impacts. Here we go. Okay, so under fight 12.04, for those that want to look it up, a unit is eligible to be selected to fight as long as one or more of the things are true. It made a charge move this turn. Okay, same as before, no big deal. The first bullet point says it is engaged or was engaged at the start of the step, fight step. Okay, again, I literally had, I'm going to call him out. I had Mitch read this and he's like, yeah, okay, cool. And I'm like, read it again. He's like, oh, wait a minute. Or was engaged at the start of this step. So that means we can have an ongoing combat. Maybe that's because like I consolidated into you or something like that, but we have an ongoing fight. Then I can take this other unit, I can charge, the other unit gets fights first. I clobber your unit, right? Because you like consolidated into me and you had like a dreadnought on 2 wounds, let's just say. So then I charge your dreadnought, the fights first unit gets to kill it. Now that other unit that never made a charge move, never even fought, it gets to overrun move and still potentially fight, even though it never made a charge.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also another way around fights first. Because
kind of,
I have to activate my fight phase or my fight for this unit, which means I am in the middle when I do my overrun move. I'm in the middle of activating myself for a fight, which is again a way around fights first. So fights first, as we read these rules and things start to click, I understand now why fights first got weaker, because it inherently already was going to be weaker. And it was going to feel way worse having it in this new edition with all these changes. You could pile into me now, and because I fought you last turn and didn't kill you, now you get to beat the crap out of me because you did a charge thing and killed the thing I was against. This is crazy. Again. And
I don't know that necessarily fights first was nerfed. I hear you, but I don't know that.
Nerfed is a strong word. I think it was just altered.
Correct. And that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think that it actually got all that much worse, because while fight first itself did get worse, there's a lot in this that I think objectively made the fight phase as a whole better. I know when we first started seeing rules, everybody was up in arms about like, oh, it's going to be a fight phase edition and why even take guns and blood. Now everyone kind of got their shit together and realized that like, that's not true. Calm down. It's fine. As much as like we're back on this, everyone thinks like, no, shooting's pretty good. It's going to be just like normal 40K where it's a little heavy towards shooting, but it's kind of 50-50.
Yep.
You know, obviously depending on your faction, but I do think the fight phase as a whole got better.
It did. Like it's gotten cleaner. Honestly, for one, it's gotten a lot cleaner. You now activate all pile-ins simultaneously. So simultaneous is the wrong word. You activate pile-ins all at the same step.
All of your pile-ins at the same time. Yes.
So you activate yours, then your opponent activates theirs.
Yes. Assuming it's your turn. Yeah.
Yep. And then you go ahead and do your fights.
Yes.
Which, again, cleaned up. And also, it's not a matter of like, well, since you have fights first, you go first. And no, it's a matter of I charged, I get to go first. Yep. And all of your fights first then gets to be thrown into that mixing pot, and we take turns.
Yep.
Again,
and
cleaner.
I think that's overall, I think that's better. And while you're saying cleaner, and I think that's true, I think this is one of the things where they say that they're trying to streamline and speed the game up.
Yep.
This, I think, actually speeds it up, right? If we're going back, if we do all of our pile-ins, you do all your pile-ins, then we go to roll dice. We're most of the time, not all the time, like overrun being kind of the exception. Most of the time, we're rolling all the dice, right? We're not getting out the tape measure and, oh, I left it on your side of the table and like running back and forth. It's like, nope, we're just going to roll all the dice, get it out of the way. Now we're done rolling all the dice. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and consolidate. And that's going to be faster. I still have my suspicions about fast rolling, but whatever.
No, I think, again, fights first being nerfed, I think is the wrong terminology. I think fights first being changed and now being more defensive is the right. And again, I still am saying that this whole pile-in method of like, I was locked into combat, I killed the thing using another charge, now I get to do a consolidate, I can consolidate into your fights first. This is a way of keeping your opponent from using that defensive capability.
Sure. And it kind of goes both ways, right? Because I think overall it feels more balanced, because there was a lot of times in 10th where, because you had fights first, you felt unchargeable.
Yeah.
The number of times where I saw people joke and actually, like, there's 2 Blade Guard units, both have a Judy. They're both standing on the objective. Neither one's charging each other, even though they're like an inch and a half away from each other. Like, charging a fights first just felt bad.
Yeah.
Now, okay, charging a fights first doesn't feel good because they have fights first, but also they don't feel like they're actually unchargeable.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about consolidation moves in the last episode with the fact that specifically when consolidating onto an objective marker, there's no like center. So it's kind of anywhere on there.
Which again, I think is a great change. Why? Because it speeds up the game. I don't have to sit here and go, well, I have to measure how far I am from the center of the objective marker and all this. It's, you want it? You want to go behind a wall? Just do it. Just do the thing.
And I do, the one thing I want to point out about Consolidate, which arguably is unchanged, but people seem to always have confusions on it, even in 10th. There is an order of operations here. Yeah. They put them in order, and they worded it to where, like, I'm going to do ongoing consolidation. It says, blah, blah, blah. If this is true, every unit, like, you must select this mode.
Yeah.
So if you can pile into people, you must do that. That is the priority. You can't just decide to go backwards towards the objective. It's if you can't make it to people, then you're allowed to go to objective. So again, they're in order. They each say must. And then by the time you like, okay, the first one says must, and I fulfill that like requirement, I have to select that, don't even finish reading.
Yep.
And that's kind of how they're trying to determine that order of operations. So for terrain in the next edition, and this might be a big topic, we have to break up a little bit, but they've no longer defined different types of terrain. Ruins, trees, industrial craters, they see them all as the same. However, they've determined that they all terrain, regardless of what it actually is physically, fall into one of 3 categories: exposed, light, and dense. So while they give you some examples of like dense is obviously buildings and ruins and armored containers and stuff like that. And they give you like exposed is just like craters and razor wire. Given that they give you the category, there's nothing saying that like, nope, this is ruins, but they're all so short, we're going to treat it as exposed so that you can have a more thematic map. Also, there's nothing saying that you can't have one honkin' crater of like, no, we dropped a nuke. That is absolutely some like dense terrain because people are like getting inside the crater. And then that allows you, especially in narrative games, to be like, yeah, we're putting a crater in the center. Man, it looks so open. Yeah, except for when you get in the crater, they can't see you anymore. Like, because there's a big giant hole and at the bottom, there's some meteor or something that we have to get. Like, they gave you categories instead of being so specific, because the more specific they get, obviously the more restrictive tournament organizers and competitive players feel, because we've even heard from like, not our store, but like a local store besides us, how some of their guys were already up in arms before we even had this information about like, no, your store better get the GW specific terrain they're putting out. Cause like, if we're not using that, then it's not going to be fair. And we need that. It's like, okay, first off, they actively said, use whatever terrain, have fun. We want it to look thematic. It matters about the category, not the actual model.
Yeah.
You could literally make like a Sylvaneth board where everything is trees and there is not a single building. And like you could have like the Catagen, that's the Catagen homeworld, right? That'd be fucking dope. but you can still clarify that like, nope, we're going to make those trees that have like the green foliage, those are going to be dense. We're going to have the ones with branches be like the light, and then the ones that are blown up and it's just like a stump, we'll do those as the exposed, and it still works. So I'm prefacing this with a further conversation, which is to say GW emailed stores, and I'm not giving it out or whatever, but they emailed stores some paper templates so that right out of the gate, we can do demos and stuff like that. And I really appreciate them, right? I thank you for doing that. My issue is that the number of people that are arguing about what the terrain means is wild to me, because they gave us direct measurements, right? And I know I've brought this up before, so I apologize for those who've heard this already, but they gave us direct measurements. And the primary example that they're telling you not to use these exactly, like have fun with it, is they gave us measurements for the right angles. Then, not only in the pictures of the deployment zone setups, but also in the paper templates they sent out, they don't match. And I'm not saying like, no, I printed it wrong and it's not the right size. I'm saying this side matches, that side matches. Why is there the extra 2-inch that they added on to the right angle so that it doesn't come to a point? Well, they did that as a, like, I think another attempt to prove these are like, we gave you the hard measurements. If you want to be a stickler about it, it has to be exactly what the tournament packet says. They gave you those measurements. But also the paper stuff they're handing out, that's meant to be played narratively. They're trying to tell you these are generally the sizes they should be. They don't have to be exactly square or rectangle. They don't have to be exactly these measurements. Get it about right, because that's what we, meant for the game. But it doesn't have to be perfect. We'd rather it be more thematic than precise. All right, so I'm going to do a YouTube short on this at some point, because it is somewhat confusing, and if I'm being completely honest, a little disappointing. But the benefit of cover is actually kind of hard for certain things to get. Benefit of cover, infantry, beast, and swarm, they have to be within the terrain area. That kind of is like, well, one of the big indicators here is that like the unit has to be, in order to gain the benefit of cover, every model has to have the benefit of cover, which means that the unit has to have every model within the terrain feature. So for infantry, it actually does get a little harder to get cover. Combined with the fact that like smoke now got changed to you're gaining the benefit of cover, but also it actually got way more restrictive. And this is the thing I want to get to. Smoke isn't gain the benefit of cover. It's gain the benefit of cover if some of your unit is already gaining the benefit of cover, but not the whole unit, is the paraphrased version. Like, again, that's not exactly what it says, but that's kind of what it ends up being. If you want smoke, you got to you have to already get cover, but they got around the template. So now they're getting rid of cover because not everybody's in the template and you still want it. So like smoke is less good. Benefit of cover is stronger, but is arguably going to show up a little less often. Not a ton less, but a little less. Hidden is very similar. All models have to be within the terrain feature in order to get hidden. Infantry, beast, swarm. Again, that's not bad, but also it says within, not wholly within. So you can just have your guys like towing into the cover and gain the benefit of cover or hidden. So there is some amount of that's pretty good. The base benefit of hidden is the detection range, or pseudo lone op. This says that its default is 15 inches. which basically means everybody has 15 inches unless otherwise stated. There's going to be some that have a higher number, lower number, potentially. More importantly, we've already seen in some of the detachments that there's some detachments are like going to select an enemy unit and they gain 6 inches to their detection range, which means it's easier for the rest of your army to see them. That sort of thing. I think we talked about it last time, but solid was a big one. They have like implemented bottom floor line of sight blocking for all buildings. That's fine. Again, we've already been playing with it, so it's relatively fine.
I'm just happy that GW is making it like the official go-to now.
Because it's been all over the internet, I suppose I have to address it. And one of the big impacts to a unit can only be targeted with a stratagem once per phase. It means that command reroll is a stratagem that is technically targeting a unit. If you spend a CP in order to advance and charge, and it says do it in the charge phase, you can't then also reroll the charge when you end up failing it. I don't actually think it's all that big a deal. I'm fine with it because the whole point was to stop the crazy stacking of stratagems. And if I'm being real honest, Armor of Contempt plus reroll a save, there's certain units where that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to call them out, but also Lion's a prime example, right? Like Armor of Contempt is good for a lot of units, but when you got a 3-up invol, command reroll, that's a hell of a toughness buff. On top of the fact that he's already giving -1 to wound. So help me when you give him benefit of cover via a strat, probably to where he's like, getting stealths. Now he's -1 to hit.
Yup.
That's a lot of stacking debuffs already. Or not debuffs, but defensive buffs.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that I heard people complaining about online was they wanted to heroic intervention a unit and then re-roll the charge. That was the big one. And again, I hear you. I would love that. Also, assuming he doesn't change, let me tell you about the Captain and Terminator armor. He just gives you free reroll charges all the time. Use them more. Anyway.
What? No way.
Again, what we already talked about, Smokescreen kind of got nerfed. I'm a little upset about it as a Marine player, because you still have to have like a smoke keyword or whatever. As a playing other factions like Necrons, that the smoke keyword does not exist in my faction. I don't care. So overall, I'm not happy about it, but I don't know that it's that big a deal. It's more than just Necrons that don't have a smoke keyword anywhere. There's plenty of factions that don't. So
yeah.
I find it interesting, some of the changes that were made. Okay, so you know what? Command reroll. Command reroll does have pretty much everything it had before, to include hazard rerolls, like the check for hazard, I should say. The thing I want to point out, not because it changed, but because I think people are going to not look at this strat since it's so close to what it used to be. You can no longer re-roll a leadership test. Period. Battle shock, leadership, you cannot command re-roll that. You still have access to the insane bravery.
Yep.
Which has to be done before you roll. But there's no if I fail it, I shouldn't. But even if I do, I can just re-roll it. No, the choice of insane bravery is a tougher choice now.
Yep.
Performing actions got a minor change. Specifically, battle shock feels real bad now. Before it was, let's say, unclear, but also Battle Shock prevented you from starting an action. That's still true. The main difference is now it says if you become Battle Shock, you automatically fail whatever action you were already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, in 10th edition, there was no clarification, right? It was just, it only prevents you from starting. If you're already doing it and some, Tyranid comes over and makes you take a Battle Shock test, you could still finish it as long as you're alive, which, to be fair, probably didn't happen, but it was still a way you could get away with it. Now, hard stops it. OC is another one I want to touch. OC has a change. If you are Battle Shocked, it no longer sets you to 0. It sets you to dash. For the most part, this sounds identical because it is. What this actually does is it prevents modifiers. So in the past, there was this big discussion about, well, I'm Battle Shocked, but also I've got the banner, so I'm still 1 because I get set to 0 and then it says +1, so I'm actually at 1. Nope. Now you are set to dash, which means there is no plus or minuses. I don't care what your modifiers are. You are, in fact, 0. That's going to be another one that I think is going to be overlooked at first. All monsters and vehicles, while making normal and advanced moves, can be moved through friendly and enemy models, excluding other monsters or vehicles. I know this harkens back to what we were talking about before with they made it simpler, but also it still kind of exists, the complicated, confusing part. My favorite keyword that I never knew I needed exists now. Frame.
Frame?
Yeah. So basically they're adding a keyword to all the data sheets that don't have a base.
Oh, okay.
So now they're clarifying so we don't have this weird limbo of like, this tank has a base. Are we measuring to the base? Are we measuring to the hull? Is it both? Now they're putting frame on these. So I know we talked about them a lot lately, but Eldar are a great example. Necrons are a great example. You did have a base. It was like the flying stem. That flying stem was so small that like you couldn't even touch it if you wanted to. The tank's way bigger than that thing. Now they're all probably going to have frame. They have not clarified who's getting it, but it seems pretty obvious for a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I think this will prevent some arguments. Again, competitively, I don't know that we cared. We're like base or hull, good enough, whatever comes first. We weren't really arguing about that. But for newer players trying to be competitive, those tend to be the most argumentative people. And that's not like a negative of trying to get better.
Yep.
That's just a reality of like, the more competitive you want to be, the more you feel bad about, oh, I'm losing right now or whatever else. So it happens. We're, people or whatever.
Well, and I think in that same vein, we've even had some like competitive players argue like sponsons are the whole, and we've had them argue, no, it's not. The whole is the box. These guns, I can't do anything about. I'm too big. So again, I look for things like rhinos and like ball predator and like all these other things to get the frame keyword. And it's like the box, you see it here, kind of like we did with our drop pods. Everyone's arguing, well, now the doors are open and now how am I going to drop this in?
Yep.
It's like this right here. This is the hole. I guarantee you drop pod gets frame.
Yep. And for what it's worth, to be fair, drop pod had its own like little chart on its data sheet about don't use the doors, whatever. I don't care. But the other example you had of like a predator or gladiator where you can like rotate the turret, that created a lot of arguments of like, oh, you're close enough and you rotated the turret for theme. Now you're charging me. Well, I'm just going to rotate the turret back because I shouldn't be punished for my like, I actually wanted to aim the gun at you. It just started fights. I don't want to deal with that.
Yep. Just tell me
unless
on the model where I have to punch it.
Yep. And unless they clarify this differently somewhere else, frame currently says you measure to the closest point on that model. period. So if you rotate your gun over and it's hanging off, I can just measure to that gun. It is, in fact, a part of the frame now, as long as it has that keyword. I just have to charge the gun. I don't have to charge you.
Which means now, even in the templates, like that gun is overhanging the template.
Yep.
Guess what? You're in the template. You can be shot.
Correct.
Now we're going to hear people argue, this is bad. I'm telling you right now.
It's fine.
It's no different than what you're already doing. I argue it's better because now Ball Predator, for example, you stick it behind the little placard. They're like, okay, I'm not in the obscuring template. Okay. I measure from it to move. It's no different. It is zero difference.
If we're being honest, even in 10th, 90% of the games you play, you weren't rotating the turret to shoot at somebody anyway. You were just leaving it over the hull of your thing. And maybe it overhangs by like 1/8 of an inch over the front of your tank, depending on which tank we're talking about, right? Like a hammerhead or something. But as much as that's true, you didn't really rotate the gun that often. So like now, if you rotate the gun, yeah, you're going to get punished for that. But also, 90% of games, it makes no difference. And the 10% where it does, how much advantage did you gain by this rule being clarified that you should be punished because you gained benefit during your turn? So during my turn, I should gain some benefit too.
Well, again, this in 10th, I was very clear with my opponents. Whenever I would use the Ball Predator, I don't count the sponsons. I don't measure from them. I don't get to shoot from them. We all agreed it's fine. We moved on with life. I designated on my model where the little box is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just happy I don't have to do that anymore. There's a very clarified rule. We move on with life. Again, I like the streamlining. It sounds like we're making an easier game to learn. Even easier to play, arguably.
Yep. Again, I don't want to read the rule book to you, but they've given us a nice little chart for attached units, when abilities apply, when they don't, because they all count as one unit regardless of them being destroyed or not, because they were attached to the beginning of or before the beginning of the game. But as far as their abilities, if we're being honest, it basically works the same as it already did. Yes, they still count towards your starting strength for like half strength, battle shock, etc. But if you kill the character, that character's abilities no longer apply. If you like precision them out, you kill every bodyguard model, the character no longer benefits from the bodyguard's ability. It's really not that different. One of the interesting things is they clarified, they call it ingress moves now, but this is basically coming out of reserves. So most of it, like ingress move itself, is described as if coming in from strategic reserves. Then obviously Deep Strike is going to alter that wording to say anywhere on the battlefield instead of within, 6 of a table edge. But one of the most important things that is like, again, a subtle change that is very relevant is if you make an ingress move of any kind, unless otherwise stated, which I think is confusing, if I'm being honest, until the start of your next charge phase, your unit is not eligible to make any other type of move. Do blood surge moves, do like all the surge moves, do they trump this? So gargoyles in Tyranids were a prime example. They would deep strike down, they would shoot, and then they would surge move onto the objective so that they could deep strike and steal the home objective away in the same turn. It says unless otherwise stated. I do not see anything in here that clarifies who trumps who.
Yeah.
So it does clarify surge move in here and what it does. I didn't see anything that says it trumps ingress. We'll figure that out later, I guess. But that's a thing that to keep in mind, because it's one of the things that stuck out to me. Like, I just made the assumption of like that trumps surge move. Oh no, gargoyles got way worse. Like, that sucks. If I'm being real honest, I don't know how you're punishing gargoyles. They're pretty neat.
You're right.
But it does matter. And maybe they haven't been punished. We might get a clarification later. I'm kind of leaning towards, I suspect there's not going to be a clarification, in which case most tournament organizers are going to say, it specifically says do not. I think you don't. Okay, so Scout got both nerfed and buffed in hilarious ways. So Scout, we'll start with the negative. Scout now says if you want to make a Scout move, you have to be wholly within your deployment zone. And most of you are saying, well, yeah, no shit, right? Except for the units that have both Infiltrate and Scout now have to pick one. So Scout Marines, for example, they can't infiltrate and then, oh shit, I'm going second, and they scout away and protect themselves. That doesn't exist anymore. So technically a nerf, but I think a nerf that I'm overall pretty happy about. Even as a Marine player, Scout Marines are getting nerfed.
Yep.
I think that's reasonable. It did get buffed though, in a kind of surprising way. If you have Scout, you can just put them into strategic reserves, and then your Scout move during the Scout move step, you can just deploy them in your deployment zone.
Yep.
Now, you don't get to do that and then Scout, but that still means that you could strategically give a unit Scout and then put it into reserves so that you could counter deploy it more effectively. Like, I know I want I look at your list, I know I want these Blade Guard. I gave them Scout, but I really want them to go fight that unit because you're mostly tanks and that's what they want to kill. And I really want to fight Terminators or whatever it is. Now you could just put them into reserves during the Scout move step. You deploy them on like the left side of the field. Why? Because now I know, I see exactly where you deployed them. I can counter deploy and get my unit where I need it to be. And I say Blade Guard because they're a common unit, right? The reality is it's probably more like a sniper unit of some kind, right? I want to precision out your characters. That's the character I want to kill. Where's he deploying? If I just deploy him like normal,
yep.
The reality is like, I want to hold back information. I'm probably going to deploy him too early because if you know I'm going to try to sniper that, you'll deploy that last and then I don't get to counter deploy. I'll get my like 6-inch Scout and hope that's enough. This allows you to hard counter deploy with Scout units, which I think is very dope. I'm very excited for that because I think that's one of these like tools in your toolbox to like a good player can utilize that pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about transports getting nerfed last episode.
Yep, we talked about transports last episode, I believe.
Deadly Demise now happens after disembarking or emergency disembarking.
Yeah, we did talk about that because I said it was more thematic that way.
Yeah. Infiltrators to, like, no real surprise here, but Infiltrate got updated to be 8 inches away from enemy deployment zone and other models. Again, it's a 1 inch. It's not crazy different.
Yep.
But also it helps match the deep striking thing. So like, that's fine, but it is technically changed. Lance and kind of bouncing around here, both Lance and Heroic Intervention, they just talk about charge moves. So while this is for Lance, this is already true in 10th. I don't see anything that prevents bonuses on the charge for Heroic. So now you could make like Heroic Intervention, and even in 10th, you would still get Lance because you made a charge move. But now that idea still applies to fights first. So you can Heroic and gain fights first. And while this isn't as scary as it would be in 10th, because your opponent still gets to pick, like it's their turn, they still get to pick a fights first before you. It does mean that like if they're multi-charging, or I shouldn't say multi-charging, charging multiple times, now your Heroic is actually way scarier. So this is another thing that's kind of buffed Heroic Intervention. Lone Operative got a minor wording update. So basically they just kind of like blast and cleave, they gave it an X number now. So instead of having the odd wording of like, that guy has lone op, that guy has 18-inch lone op, but it's like a whole paragraph instead of a single, like 2 words. They gave it a number. So now I think you'll see certain things get updated, like the Phobos Librarian. He's going to get updated to like, he gives the unit lone op 18 or something like that. Also, while this is already true, because lone op got changed to is not visible, which is technically worse than it used to be, but better in some ways. They did tack on to prevent the worst part. They tacked on the clarification of cannot be indirect fired, because before it says they couldn't be targeted. Now it says not visible, which means theoretically indirect fire could hit them, but they didn't actually want that. So technically lone op got a strict buff. I know we've talked before about abilities targeting because they're no longer visible. A lot of those abilities required visibility, or a lot of the, yeah. God, that sounds terrible. But like marker lights, for example, if they're hidden, if they're lone opt, they can't be marker lighted from across the table. You have to actually be within range.
Which I'm okay with.
Unintentionally Melta especially, but also kind of rapid fire, got some pretty big buffs with that 1-inch change to both infiltrate and deep strike, or ingress moves, I should say. So now when you ingress move with your 18-inch Melta, which is what most of them are, not all, you will get your Melta out of deep strike. So that's pretty good. Stealth, as we've talked about, is now the benefit of cover. Stealth got kind of a hard nerf. It's not that it's bad, given how difficult it is for certain units to get benefit of cover. Stealth is still good. You should still play it. It's great. Benefit of cover objectively got stronger. You should play it. But because it is the benefit of cover instead of -1 to hit, you are now looking at ignore cover weapons are going to ignore stealth as well. I think we talked about super heavy walkers too last time. Short answer is most of the time there's no real difference. Knights have always had the move through terrain features 4 inches or less. If higher, you have to roll a battle shock test. Well, not a battle shock. You have to roll the d6 on a 1. You become battle shocked, but you gain mobile. So like you get to go through taller than 4 inches things. But what's really important here is they, instead of applying that to knights, they're applying that to all Titanic or all super heavy walkers, which is to say, like, I know orcs and their stompas, they've been kind of unnecessarily nerfed this whole time because they didn't get the update when all the knights did. They're super heavy walkers. They should, like, arguably the stampa is bigger than most knights. Like, you should probably be able to walk through that wall. Now they'll get that. So that's a really good update. Okay, so differing characteristics. This is a fun one that I'm excited about, but also isn't going to show up very much. If you have a unit with different toughness characteristics, prime example here is Deathwatch. You've got some regular guys, you've got some Gravis, maybe some Terminators, something like that. You get this mixed bag unit. Now, you use the toughness characteristic of the highest toughness characteristic amongst the bodyguards. So if your character's tougher, that doesn't apply until it's just the character. But you can now have, like in the past, there was always this weird balance of, I've got 4 Terminators and 5 regular guys, and I'm T4. I need you to shoot me and kill one guy and then stop shooting me, because then I'll be T5 and everyone else that shoots at me, I'll have the higher toughness and that'll feel good. Now, you only got to have 1 Terminator It could be 9 guys like T4 and 1 guy T5. Whole unit counts as T5 because they're all bodyguard models. So this is another minor change that for certain factions will have a pretty big impact. Another one is like for Marines, the Warden's Voltramar. As long as there's a T4 guy in the unit, it doesn't matter how many of the T3 guys are in the unit. Unit still counts as T4. So that'll be a nice buff to them. I don't know they needed the buff, but it'll be nice for them to have. Reviving units. So this is specifically models either by ability or enhancement. When they die, they come back to life. If they were attached to a unit, it now clarifies that they come back attached to the unit they were in before. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those enhancements specifically are going to feel a lot better in the new edition, because it always felt weird to like, oh, I've got this Custodes character. When it dies, the Blade Champ, he's going to come back to life on a 4-up or a 3-up or whatever it was. But like somebody precisions him out and now he comes back to life and he's no longer attached to the Wardens. He's a separate unit. Oh, I wanted him to buff those guys. Like, so this is going to be a nice touch for that. I think this is more thematic. I do think this might overly benefit Necrons. You precision out characters and they can reanimate the character back and like, well, that's pretty good. But I still think this is more thematic. I think this makes some of those enhancements that were always felt like they were supposed to be good, but always felt weird on the table will make more sense. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know where it's going to show up yet because we don't have all the information. But the second to last thing they talk about in the rules they did put out, which if I'm being honest, was a bit of a surprise. They talk about objectives not within a terrain area.
Okay.
They say if there's an objective that's not within a terrain area, put a 40 millimeter marker.
What is this objective that doesn't have an area?
They basically put all the wording for 10th edition into here. So while all the missions are going to say use these templates, and they've advertised the edition with we're using these templates, these buildings as objective markers, it's way more thematic. They just threw in the bottom here of like, I'm not sure if this is if you still want to play 10th, go for it. Or if this is we haven't told you yet, but there's going to be some missions or some actions or something that allow you to make additional objective markers like the ritual. And then we want you to put them wherever. I have a follow-up question. It doesn't say anywhere here that objective. It says not within a terrain area. Does that mean I can put an objective marker that's like touching the objective marker terrain feature, but it's not within? Like, again, this is so vague of like, why would you put this in here? And it goes in the face of kind of everything you've advertised. And because it goes in the face of that, I definitely feel like, no, you put it in here for a reason. It's not for the 10th edition guys who just don't want to change over and we're going to put this in to make them feel better. No, you put this in here because we're going to have to deal with this. Where? When? How? I don't want to do it. All right. Well, I think that's what I've got for today. Again, there's a lot more. Everybody needs to read the rules. I did not read this to you. There's a ton more in here. I just kind of hit the weird things that I noticed as I was going through. Also, there is so much more to come.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, if you go through and read this document they put out, the PDF, everything in green is in the app. It's not actually here. So they're like actively advertising, we haven't given you all the rules. And that's on top of the things that should have been in here. If you listed out all these keywords, kind of for no reason, of like, if you're going to explain to me precision, why aren't you explaining hidden? You're going to explain all the terrain features. I kind of wish, and you know what? Hidden is kind of in here. I take that back because they talk about default detection ranges and stuff like that. So I guess hidden is in there, but the one that keeps glaring at me in the face is the modifying characteristics is in green. I need to know, is there a cap on minus to hit? Is there a cap on ballistic skill?
I need to know.
I can't actually play test this edition without that one piece of information. God dang it.
Says, I need to know. Well, I guess with that being said, because we're running over on time, our cup runneth over with information this episode. I guess we're going to give a quick shout out to our patrons because
absolutely,
we love them. So we have to give a shout out to our patrons, starting with our guardsman patrons. Sergeant Matt's Miniman. Captain Bivolo.
Aye, Captain.
Andy. We have to thank our White Shield Guards and patrons. Mitch Nicodemus. I don't know. He says to keep messing up his name. One day I'm just gonna go, blah. That's gonna be his name.
Wait, that's not what you're already doing?
No.
Oh, okay.
And Stephen Grace. And then we have to thank our Servo Skull patrons, Des and Renee. So thank you to our lovely patrons. Because we get to talk about 11th edition and you listen and you like it.
That sounded awfully demanding. You will like it.
You will like it. And a huge shout out to our listeners, of course, because without you, we also wouldn't have a show. And over the course of the launch of the new edition, we've gotten quite a few of our listeners reaching out to get the Armageddon boxes. And I'm sure by the time this episode is out, we will still have boxes available. So
I'm betting we do. If we don't, I'll be happy. But also the reality is I got a lot.
We did get a lot.
We got a lot. If, we have them up 15% off. MSRP is $295. We're selling them for $250. 75. Yep. So, save you a bucket of dollars. Even after shipping, you're still going to pay less through us than you would directly to GW. Obviously, if you have a local game store, there's nothing wrong with supporting them. Please do.
Absolutely.
If you play there, support them.
Yeah, also, if you don't, they won't stay open.
Yep.
No, just pay and play there.
Yep. Also, if you're supporting GW Direct, you can support them through us and make it clear to them that we matter.
Well, with that being said, I guess this is thank you all for listening. Tune in next week. Hey everybody, it's Aaron. I want to thank you again for tuning in for this episode of Gopher's Workshop with us, hanging out and listening. Remember, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. And if you feel like supporting us, you can always go to Patreon in the show notes below. Thanks. Till next time.